Hello viewers! Does your car feel bouncy and wobbly when going over road bumps, as if you're on a boat on rough seas? Or maybe it doesn't stop as it should, despite its brakes being in perfect condition? Well, one of quite likely causes here could be bad shock absorbers, whose job is to make the car's ride stable and firm. So let's see what's this all about. Bad shock absorbers can cause all sorts of ride-related issues, ranging from bounciness and excessive body roll or leaning during harsh maneuvers, to poor braking and strange tire wear. But let's take a look at each of these symptoms more closely. One thing you'll probably first notice when the shock absorbers are bad is a drastic change in ride quality. To be more precise, the car will feel bouncy when going over road bumps, as if you're driving on jelly. Also, when you step on the brake or turn the steering wheel sharply, the whole body will roll or dive violently, and it will take some time for it to settle back afterward. All this happens because of bad shock absorbers, which can't sufficiently control the car's weight and inertia. Similarly, there might be situations when you step on the brake pedal hard, but the car just doesn't stop as it should, like if you're driving on an icy road. Obviously, many things can cause poor braking performance, such as worn pads and rotors, but it might also be because of bad shock absorbers. This is because they won't press the wheel enough against the surface beneath, allowing it to jump up and down when the brakes are applied. Another thing likely to happen when the shock absorbers are bad is vibrations at the steering wheel, usually most prominent at certain speeds. In most cases, this is caused by slightly unbalanced tires, which will jump up and down as you drive along because the shock absorber doesn't have the strength to hold them firmly against the road. All these vibrations and jumping up and down might take a toll on the tires, causing them to wear unevenly. But what's symptomatic here is a wear pattern, which will be very specific when the shock absorbers are bad. To be more precise, when looking at the tire's surface, you'll see patches of tread missing here and there, as if something has bitten them off. We also have the noises you might hear when the shock absorbers are bad. This includes squeaks and bangs coming from underneath the car when going over road bumps or potholes. The cause for this can be the shock absorber itself, if it's bent out of shape or its internals have fallen apart, or the bushings at the end of the shock's body where it meets the chassis. In the end, I must mention the oil with which the shock absorber's housing is filled. But if these seals at the top fail, the oil will leak out and drip on the ground beneath. And in some cases, it may end up on the brakes, which is extremely dangerous. So if you see any oily stains around the wheels or on the shock's body, it's time to replace them. Finding the shock absorbers on a car isn't easy in most cases. Just look around the wheel and try to spot a long metal cylinder bolted to the chassis at one end and some suspension component at the other. This can be the wheel hub, like here, or the wishbone, as you can see here. Also, depending on the car and its configuration, the shock absorbers can be standalone or may have a spring mounted on them, in which case this combo is called a strut. The shock absorber is a part of the suspension that dampers vibrations and oscillations and, by doing so, prevents the car from bouncing on the springs due to its weight every time it goes over bumps. It also prevents the wheels from jumping up and down under load by pressing them firmly against the ground. Technically speaking, the shock absorber is a cylinder inside which there is a piston in oil. One side of the shock is bolted to a suspension component, wishbone, hub, whatever, while the other is attached to the chassis. And now, while the car is going over bumps and the wheels are going up and down, the piston inside the shock absorber cylinder is also going up and down. However, the oil through which the piston slides prevents this from happening uncontrollably, which then firms up the suspension. And the thicker this oil is, the sooner the suspension will stabilize, but at the expense of comfort. That's why sports cars have harder shock absorbers, while those that aim for comfort have softer ones. And yes, each wheel has its own shock absorber, making 4 in total. Now you're probably wondering whether it's possible to drive with bad shock absorbers, especially if the money is tight at the moment. This, however, wouldn't be a good idea, because such a car doesn't handle very well and it might take longer for it to stop when braking. Sure, you may say, I'll drive slower and be more careful, but that's really not a solution, because another vehicle or a person might run in front of you, and your car needs to be in the best possible shape in such situations. So with that in mind, it's highly recommended that you replace the shock absorbers as soon as you notice they are bad, which brings us to the last question. And that's how much will it cost to replace bad shock absorbers. As with anything else on a car, this largely depends on the model and the complexity of the work that has to be done. The shock absorbers usually cost between $50 and $200, with prices largely determining the quality and expected lifespan. Also, keep in mind that shocks need to be done in pairs, meaning that only if the left hand is bad, the one on the right side will need to be replaced as well. Another thing here is the labor cost, should you pay a mechanic to do the replacement. Those standalone shocks are easy to replace, as this job only involves undoing several bolts that hold it in place. In fact, you can do this by yourself with some basic tools, jack and jack stands. Struts with integrated springs, however, are a whole different story. To replace these, the suspension needs to be partially dismantled, and once the strut is removed from the car, it needs to be taken apart with a special tool. Attempting to do this last bit without the said tool can be extremely dangerous, which is why it's best to leave the whole job to a professional. Also, after our new struts are installed, you'll have to take your car for a wheel alignment because the suspension was disassembled. In general, all this could take anywhere between $100 and $400 out of your pocket. So that would be all about the shock absorbers, what they do, how to spot bad ones, and how much will it cost to replace them. I hope this video was helpful, and if so, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with your friends. But if your car's ride is still not right even after checking the shock absorbers, something else might be causing the issue. So to continue troubleshooting, check out other videos here or visit our site mechanicbase.com for detailed automotive repair guides. Bye!